Greenville, South Carolina. In the northwest corner of the state, it's positioned perfectly between Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a smaller city that gives a modern touch to that southern charm you'd expect. We arrived early Saturday morning and were able to catch the farmers market on Main Street. We quickly realized that everything we would do throughout this trip would either be at or around Main Street. It's definitely a focal point of the city. It's a quick 10-minute walk from one end of Main Street to the other, and along the way you'll find shops and restaurants which are surrounded by statues, sculptures, and all sorts of artwork that the city takes a lot of pride in, none of which is more famous than the mice on Main. While I've always been one that was attracted to bigger cities like Atlanta or Charlotte and everything they have to offer, the more I travel and the more I get around, I'm starting to appreciate the smaller, tighter packages that cities like Greenville have to offer. You don't have the big city problems, you don't have the big city prices, and you still get that city lifestyle feeling. We wrapped up our afternoon with some souvenir shopping and even found one of our favorite spots from Savannah. One of the things that a lot of people told us is that Greenville is an up-and-coming food scene in the South, and that they have a lot of fancy restaurants and famous chefs that are moving into the city. And of course, they've got to be good at making biscuits. But enough of all that. Sure, it's fun to walk down Main Street, it's great to have a nice dinner, but if I'm visiting a city for just the weekend, one thing I always have to know is how's the nightlife. And I've got to say, we had a great time. We started at a bar we were familiar with because there's one in our hometown called Up on the Roof, and just like in our hometown, it's a rooftop bar that looks over the city and has an awesome view. We had a couple drinks there, and just like earlier in the day, everything was a short walk away, so we were able to hop from one bar to another, check out a great brewery, and get a few drinks at a few different places without ever having to travel too far. After a couple of stops, it was time for some rest, because after all, we haven't even seen the highlight of the whole city. As I said before, being a smaller city comes with its advantages. One of which is that you're never too far from nature, and you're never too far from the outdoors. We took the Swamp Rabbit Trail. It's a paved bike trail that starts downtown and goes outside the city, and we made a stop at one of these stone gardens that featured a really beautiful waterfall. However, when it's all said and done, there's nothing in Greenville that's more worth your time than Falls Park on the Ready. The Ready River flows right past downtown and has a couple of spectacular waterfalls. The park surrounds the waterfalls and has the Liberty Bridge, which is a walking bridge, and it's a suspension bridge, but it has suspension cables only on one side. So not only does this make it a spectacular bridge to look at, but it gives you complete views of the waterfalls with no obstructions whatsoever. We finished our weekend with some of the best biscuits I've ever had in my life, and it gave us time to really reflect on what we thought about Greenville. And in my opinion, it's a beautiful city, and you can tell that they're trying. It's not without faults though. Maybe because they're trying so hard, there are a few issues. One in particular is there seems to be rules and signs and ordinances everywhere, no matter where you turn. Everywhere you go, there's some rule that you're worried about breaking. It might seem like a simple little thing, but the more time we spent here, it just started to seem kind of odd. On top of that, there's actually quite a bit of a homeless problem. I wish someone would help them, but everywhere you turn, there seemed to be somebody sleeping on the street. With that said though, it's definitely a place worth checking out, and it's a place that we appreciated visiting. Not everything is perfect, and not everything can be done, and sometimes you see things as they're coming together, and to me, Greenville seems like a place that's really coming together. And I'd really like to come back in a few years and just see what kind of progress this beautiful city has made.